Welcome back, cloners. After a surprisingly high response from our last Decklist video, we're doing another Decklist video. That plus my computer broke, and I'm now using a sound recording program that's in German, so we'll see how this goes. We threw around some other commanders like Brago, Toshiro, Rafik, and others. We'll try to get to those at some point, but for now we're doing a full deck list of a deck we played before on this channel but have been unable to post fully. That's right, I'm talking about the Naya Monsters Horde. How many Decklist videos of that are there on YouTube? Exactly. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Horde magic, we'll post a link to the rules in the video description and even link you some of the games we played with Horde on this channel at the end of the video. Okay, so since this is Horde magic, converted mana costs are almost irrelevant since the Horde casts spells for free. There are 100 cards in a Horde, and 60 of those should be tokens, which means the remaining 40 are actual cards. Those 40 spells will be the majority of this video. There are basically 3 things you're going to want to build your Horde deck around: beefy creatures, disruption, and most importantly, flavor. Hordes typically win with combat damage, so big and legion creatures are the heart of any Horde deck. Like any good commander deck though, a deck that isn't versatile has the potential to auto-lose, sometimes against just as few as 1 card. This is why you're going to want to include some form of disruption in your Horde, which brings us to our second point. Note that most Horde games generally begin in the team's favor, so don't feel bad about adding plenty of cards traditionally considered dick cards. These cards don't apply pressure to the team so much as they deal with cards that attacking creatures wouldn't otherwise be able to deal with. Finally, each Horde deck should be created from a top-down approach, where every card you put into the deck matches whatever theme you're going for, while at the same time satisfying both of the other 2 items previously mentioned. You wouldn't put Blazing Archon in a Goblin Horde. That would just be... no. For the deck list, we'll start with CMC 4. Most of our best spells will be higher in mana costs. We'll start with an updated take on a classic magic card, Blistering Firecat. What could be more mindless than a cat? Oh, and how about a cat made out of fire that lives only for a few minutes? Flavor City. We don't want our big guys stolen by the blue players, so we have a brooding Saurian lizard to ensure that the Horde is the only one beating with its big guys. Since the Horde only has 1 spell per turn, in contrast to the team's multiple, we don't want the Horde spells countered, so we have 1 Spellbreaker Behemoth. Continuing on with our Beast theme, we have 2 copies of Fangren Firstborn, who will permanently pump all the Horde's attacking creatures. The Horde creatures tap out every turn, so we want to give it some defense with Windborn Views, which is a spirit. Spirits are mindless and scary, right? Rounding out our 4 CMCs, we have a copy of the Mana Barbs, which will likely deal a massive amount of damage to the team if they can't deal with it. Since the Horde has no mana, it is straight value for it. Next we have CMC 5. In this CMC, we want the Horde to be able to destroy the team's board without having to target anything. That's why we have a copy of Molder Slug, which destroys artifacts on the team side without having to target them like you would have with Enduring Stomp Howler. And what's good about it, each of your opponents lose an artifact. Gahiji Honored One is a beast who makes all the Horde's attacking creatures instantly bigger when it attacks. World at War gives the Horde a much needed second attack phase, and we close out this CMC with our first expensive card with Colonian Hydra. There aren't too many counter generators in the deck, but since all the creatures have haste, it will be an 8/8 trampling threat the same turn it's cast, and if it survives subsequent turns, it will put a game-ending amount of pressure on the team. CMC 6. Here's where we start to get to the big boys. We have 2 enlisted worms, since worms are right in the Nile wheelhouse, and these worms give us a second spell when cast. Straight value. 2 more worms we're going to want are Armada Worm, which also bring a friend to the party. Hailing from Hydraland, we have Hydra Omnivore, which, if it connects, is going to deal double, triple, or however many players are on the team damage. While the Omnivore is chumpable, this beast doesn't get blocked so easily, or even countered. Terra Stomper. We have 2 Realm Razors to apply pressure to the team's land base. We have 1 copy of Cloud Thresher to deal with any small flyers the team has, as well as a bit of damage to everyone. The Horde flyers are big enough to sustain the damage from the Cloud Thresher. The team may have a moat, propaganda, or silent arbiter, or whatever artifact enchantment giving the Horde grief. We have 2 copies of Bane in Progress to disrupt the team mostly, as our list doesn't contain too many artifacts or enchantments, except for our next card, which is Collected Blessing, making the Horde much bigger. CMC 7. The Horde's creatures are gonna die, and die often. Cards like Stalking Vengeance punish the team for every removal spell they play or otherwise profitable block. Molgroth Monstrosity is another way of infusing a bit more value into the Horde list. Balefire Dragon is the Horde's version of a one-sided board wipe, and the card the team has to deal with.
Spiritbreaker Behemoth
Survives blocks and wraths, but can't pump the Horde's other creatures. Tornado Elemental gets rid of the team's big flyers, but watch out as it will take out the Horde's flyers. The Horde doesn't want to deal with small blockers, so Elish Norn Grand Cenobite removes them from the equation. Also makes your guys bigger. What's not to love? Speaking of making your guys bigger, Titanic Ultimatum. Also, Trample. Roar of the Worm makes a big worm and then has the added benefit of a second worm during the next turn with flashback. Wave of Vitriol is a second way of getting rid of pesky artifacts and enchantments, cards that Bane of Progress wouldn't normally be able to get around, like Humility. Again, the Horde has no lands, so it's a value city. CMC 8 and 9. Like Roar of the Worm, but want 3 times as many? Try Crush of Worms. Now try 3 times as many copies of Crush of Worms. Also, flashback. Blazing Archon is a decently sized creature and a super Windborn Muse. Symbiotic Worm is a house and gets around wraths, much like his big brother Worldspine Worm. Worldspine Worm doesn't die. Ever. Ever. The only way for the team to deal with the worm is to exile it somehow, making the worm an extra challenge for the team. Otherwise, it just keeps shuffling back into the library and keeps getting cast. Utvar Hellkite is another card that gets out of hand quickly and forces the team to deal with it, or perish to an onslaught of huge dragons. And in case the team does mount a successful board state, Insurrection takes it and beats the team to death with it. Now for the fun part, the tokens. As mentioned earlier, Hordes are extremely customizable and malleable. You could do one with all 6/6 worms if you wanted. We tried to include a little bit of everything from all the monstery cards Naya has to offer. We recommend you just throw in what tokens you happen to have on you, but here are some ideas. Try a Minotaur, a Khans Bear, 1/4/4 Ogre, a 3/3 Ogre, 1 Trampling Rhino, a Hellion, a Cat, an Elemental, a Khans Bird, 1 Trampling Worm, a Guardian of the Grove Vigilance Elemental, a Trampling Elemental, 2 Zendikar Ball Lightning equivalent Trampling Elementals, 2 Junior Elementals, a Godsire token, 1 Titania token, 1 Voice of Resurgence token, 5 Wolves, 5 Giant Warriors, 2 4/4 Dragons, 2 5/5 Dragons, 4 Elephants, 4 3/3 Beasts, 4 4/4 Beasts, 7 Rockbirds, and 7 Worms. And that's the list. Sorry it's been elusive until now. One final note you can try out if the Horde you play against is too easy is to level the Horde up each time you beat it. As in keep the game in progress going, shuffle the Horde's graveyard back into its library, and give the Horde an emblem. For example, an Elspeth token each time it dies. This should make it pretty difficult to defeat. That's it for now. Let us know your continuing thoughts on both the Horde and these decklist videos. We know people come for the gameplays and we'll try to focus mainly on those. Until then, you can check out these games we played against the Zombie and Naya Monsters Horde. Check them out and remember to always go your clone way.